What is up, guys? It's ya boy Rick. No, this is Patrick. Cacus here. Guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to support the channel, and let me know what you think my next intro name should be. That comment section is wild. Alright, today we are going to be showcasing 5 legendary scout rifles available in-game right now that you absolutely want to get your hands on. Now, why is that? Well, Bungie confirmed that scout rifles along with hand cannons are getting a PvE damage buff that they desperately need. Both of these weapon types take forever to kill even a basic red bar in endgame content, and that buff is arriving in the upcoming Season 15. So obviously on the tail end of Season 14, when there's not much going on, that's when you want to grind these weapons. You don't want to have to go back and farm old weapons when there's new content to play, and if you're wondering about hand cannons, don't worry, I've already done a video on those. So, starting things off at number 5, we have the TRUSTEE Legendary Energy Scout Rifle. Now this thing is a 260 rounds per minute rapid fire frame archetype. I think it's the only one not sunset, and I've always said rapid fire scouts are great for people who don't usually like scout rifles. It's intrinsically full auto, shoots pretty darn fast, has better ammo reserves, and it's just great at hip firing and clearing out adds. Honestly, it's pretty darn close to a slow firing auto rifle. Now, the TRUSTEE comes from the Deep Stone Crypt raid, and that means it's pretty darn farmable because you can beat the Deep Stone Crypt and then spend all of your spoils of conquest on just getting TRUSTEEs over and over and over again until you get a good roll. And this thing has some pretty darn good rolls. It can get the Reconstruction Deepstone Crypt exclusive perk where it can double its magazine over time even when it's stowed away, and then it can get another exclusive perk, Redirection, where damaging rank and file combatants increases damage against more powerful PvE combatants, and that combination is fantastic. That's what I have, and I've used this thing in like Grandmasters before when scout rifles are a featured archetype. It's really a phenomenal weapon and is poised to get even better. However, it's time to move on from there to number 4, and that goes to the Vision of Confluence Legendary Energy Scout Rifle. Now, this thing is a precision frame archetype, so 180 rounds per minute, and this comes from the Vault of Glass raid, which, again, it is a raid. However, that does mean, because it's one of the newer raids, that you can spend your spoils specifically trying to get this thing until you get a God Roll. Now, this thing also comes in the time lost version due to the master difficulty that got started pretty recently with Vault of Glass, and that gives this thing a lot of power. If you get the time loss version, you can put on ADEPT mods such as ADEPT Big One spec, which lets you do bonus damage to both majors and bosses. It's like major spec and boss spec combined into one, so in like a Nightfall scenario, that means you're doing bonus damage to every yellow bar you see and to the champions as those count as bosses. Not to mention, it's got pretty darn good stats and some pretty decent rolls. It can get the Vault of Glass exclusive perk Rewind Rounds, where if the magazine is empty, it refills it from reserves based on the number of hits. That's what I have on my roll, and it's great. It's basically going to not quite double, but, you know, plus 70, 60% increase to your magazine size. That's nothing to scoff at. That combined with either something like Firefly for that explosive damage, Disruption Break for extra damage against champions, Frenzy for more damage overall, Kill Clip for increased damage. There's a lot of great options in that second slot as well. This thing is again poised to move. If the buff is anything substantial, the Vision of Confluence will absolutely see a lot more play. However, it is time to move on from there to spot number 3, and that goes to the Eternal BLAZON. Now, this is a legendary energy scout rifle again, and this time it's a lightweight frame. So That's 200 rounds per minute, and this gives you better handling, and you can actually move faster when this weapon is equipped. Now, generally, these are actually a great archetype. They don't quite have the same stats in terms of range and stability, but you often don't need maximum range and stability in PvE, and so these things are just shooting faster while still maintaining a relatively decent amount of damage. And frankly, the Eternal Blazon has some disgustingly good PvE rolls, even better than the Vision of Confluence, and frankly, arguably better than the TRUSTEE, even though those two things are raid weapons. So, this thing drops from world drops, and is actually also right now farmable through Umbral Engrams, so actually pretty easy to get your hands on a good Eternal Blazon. And in the first slot, you can get things like Rapid Hit, so landing precision shots increases your reload speed substantially. It can get full auto if you want. It can get overflow, so picking up special heavy ammo doubles your magazine size instantly, and then you can combine that in the second slot with Kill Clip for a damage increase, One for All for an incredibly good damage increase where hitting 3 targets, which One for All is probably the best damage increasing perk for Grandmasters, because you can just tap 3 targets and get that damage boost without killing anything, because it takes half your magazine to kill something, you know what I mean? So that's fantastic. Disruption Break, again, a lot of good choices here. The Eternal Blazon is a really, really easy to use, great weapon, and again, being in that lightweight frame archetype is pretty darn good. If the buff is substantial enough for these things to be killing in one shot less, like just like the 180s, then why wouldn't you use the faster shooting one? So potentially this could be the archetype of choice moving forward. However, moving forward in the video, our number 2 slot goes to the Nightwatch Legendary Kinetic Scout Rifle, finally a kinetic. Now this is also a lightweight frame 200 RPM scout, and this thing is just incredible. Similar to the Blazon, this is a world drop. Unfortunately, it's not available in this season's Umbrals. I forget about last season's, but hey, if you gotta turn in every single Vanguard token you have before they expire by the end of the season, you might get a couple of good night watches. And a big tip for you guys, if you go to the Quest Archive kiosk right next to the Postmaster and reacquire the beginning quest for brand new players of Destiny 2, you can get a curated roll of a Night Watch, and it comes with overflow plus explosive payload. Absolutely insane, and arguably the best possible roll with the Night Watch. And explosive payload is just incredible. Before we talk about that, in that first slot, you can get stuff like Outlaw, Rapid Hit, or the newly buffed Subsistence, all 3 of those incredible. And then in the second perk slot, you can get Rampage or Multi-Kill Clip for just classic damage increasing perks, but explosive payload is absolutely what I would be going for, and frankly, the fact that this thing can get access to explosive payload is why it's so high on this list. I don't think people realize just how good explosive payload is as a perk for PvE. It provides a 10% damage boost for headshot damage and 15% damage boost for body shot damage over a normal non-explosive weapon. So you're just getting Rampage ×1, or basically Frenzy, all the time for doing literally nothing. Plus it increases your range massively because the explosive damage never drops off in range, and it lets you hit multiple targets at the same time, lets you stagger targets easier, and super importantly, because you're technically hitting an enemy twice with every shot for the normal damage and the explosive damage, explosive payload weapons trigger champion mods way faster. Like if you have an explosive hand cannon or an explosive scout rifle, when it's overload rounds, you stun those guys so darn fast. So yeah, pick up that quest and get yourself a God Roll Night Watch. But moving on from there, the last weapon on our list, number 1, it goes to the Hung Jury SR4, and the Adept version is available, well, actually this week from Nightfalls, just added this season. Now, the Hung Jury is a 180 RPM precision frame archetype just like the Vision, but the reason it's up here at number 1 is firstly the stats. The Vision of Confluence has a base range of 51 and a base stability of 48. The Hung Jury has 54 base range and 60 stability. Like, it basically gets a free steady rounds just in the base stats. But not only that, the Hung Jury I do think has superior perks. So firstly, you can get something like Subsistence, which is fantastic, and Rapid Hit. Even Surplus is going to be a great choice in that first slot, and then in the second slot, you can get One for All for that damage increase we talked about earlier, and Firefly is great as well, but it can also get Explosive Payload. And just like how we talked about with the Night Watch, Explosive Payload is cracked out of its mind for PvE. And I feel like right now, the PvE God Roll of Rapid Hit, I believe, plus Explosive Payload for a Hung Jury, especially because, again, similar to the Vision, the Adept version can get that Adept Big One spec to deal more damage across more important enemies, and that roll is priced to move. That will likely be the PvE Scout Rifle of choice going into Season 15 after receiving a buff. Guys, it's already usable right now. Like, I'm actually doing Grandmasters trying to farm Hung Juries, funny enough, with Hung Juries I've already got because Scout Rifles are a featured weapon type, and this is pretty much the best of available Scout Rifles. And so guys, that is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickKakis. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.